AMD has underperformed in 2024, but its prospects look strong heading into 2025 and beyond. Two of the more notable reasons for that is because NVIDIA is not able to keep up with demand in the data center artificial intelligence segment, and that spillover leads to increasing opportunity for AMD, who has said that its MI300X product for optimized data centers for artificial intelligence is one of its best products of all time. The ramp up is one of the best they've seen ever in their history. Coupled with that fact is that AMD's participation in the personal computer industry and the expected rebound in PC sales in 2025 and 2026 has the company positioned excellently to benefit from those two catalysts. So, should investors buy AMD stock before 2025? I'm going to answer that question in this video, looking at the company's prospects, comparing it against its valuation. Also, I'll be sharing with you my discounted cash flow valuation model with AMD stock, and I'll put that all together and let you know if I think the stock is a buy for 2025. That's a lot to cover in a short video, so let's get into it.
I want to thank The Motley Fool for sponsoring this video. Visit fool.com/Parkev for the 10 best stocks to buy now.
Looking at AMD's revenue over the last decade, you see very nice improvement up to $24 billion in the trailing 12-month period. That's up from under $8 billion in 2019, so it's more than tripled its revenue in the last several years. But the difficulty for AMD has been in PC sales and gaming sales. AMD makes custom designs for gaming systems like the Sony PlayStation 5, and that segment hasn't recovered as strongly as those device console sales have flattened and decreased because it's several years old now, and the newest model is not going to come out next year either, and so that's going to bring down that segment. The personal computer segment also struggled in 2024 because so many people bought computers in 2020 and in 2021 when they initially learned that they're going to be working from home or learning from home. And so computers last anywhere between 4 to 6 years, depending on how intensive your use case might be. For someone like me, I couldn't use a computer for 6 years because I need the latest generation technology. I use computers intensively for editing and video recording and financial analysis and other things. And so for someone like me, I might upgrade much quicker. But for someone who's just using it for browsing the internet, answering emails, maybe some bill pay, they can theoretically use a computer for 7, 8, 9 years even. So on average, it's a 4 to 6 year refresh cycle. And those computers that were purchased in 2020 and 2021, they're going to be hitting that prime window of that refresh cycle in 2025. Adding fuel to that fire is that Microsoft is ending support for its older generation Windows system. So many consumers that have that older generation Windows system will need to make a choice about what to do with those systems that are not being updated by Windows, which is going to facilitate more upgrades. And finally, of course, PCs are now being embedded with AI technology, which is going to make people want to purchase that latest personal computer because it has something extra, something that none of those older generation computers have, and it's those AI capabilities, all of which is going to benefit AMD. And of course, the most obvious factor that AMD's benefited from is the massive amount of investment that's going into these data centers that are optimized for artificial intelligence. AMD recently launched its own accelerated GPU for that segment, and it's going very well. And 2025 is expected to be even better than it was in 2024. So the cash flow from operations, you'll notice a big drawdown here as a result of those downside factors I highlighted earlier, and you've only begun to see the rebound in AMD's cash flow from operations. I wouldn't be surprised if over the next 24 months, its cash flow from operations exceeds its previous peak here, over $4 billion. I wouldn't be surprised if it approaches $5 billion in free cash flow over the next 2 years. In fact, if we look at Wall Street projections for where AMD's free cash flow will be over the next few years, you can see a significant ramp up is forecasted from Wall Street about AMD. In 2026, Wall Street expects $9.3 billion in free cash flow from AMD, so its prospects are robust to be sure, and those free cash flows are expected to continue growing all the way to 2028, where its free cash flow is expected to rise to $16 billion. And that's fueled by all four segments starting to work in harmony together for AMD. The gaming segment, I mentioned it's in decline right now because those consoles are getting long in the tooth. Eventually, those consoles need to be updated, and the next generation technology, AMD could participate in those upgrades as well. For the Sony PlayStation 6, perhaps, might be coming out in 2026, 2027, or 2028. They tend to be released once every 10 years or so. So that could be a catalyst for the gaming segment. Meanwhile, the PC segment, I already highlighted the catalysts for that. And the data center AI segment is expected to continue growing robustly all the way through 2030. Similar story with the return on invested capital for AMD. During the peak, it was well over 40%, and I wouldn't be surprised again if over the next 2 years it surpasses that previous peak, approaches 40-50% again. Remember, Nvidia, its main rival, is up over 100%. Now, that's unsustainable to have that over 100%. I suspect Nvidia's will come down, but AMD's will likely recover back up to these levels where it was reaching when all of its business segments were working well together and you didn't have these unprecedented circumstances in the aftermath of the pandemic. All right, so now that we looked at a lot of the prospects, the metrics, and the performance of the business, let's look at the valuation. And when you measure AMD stock by the forward price to earnings ratio, it's trading at near the cheapest price it's been going all the way back to January of 2022. It's trading at a forward PE of about 25, a little less than 25. And it's only been cheaper one other time, and that was in January of 2023 for a brief moment before it recovered. And other than that, the stock has traded at a more expensive valuation according to this metric, going all the way back to January of 2022. Another way I like to value a business is by doing a discounted cash flow analysis. And according to this metric, I have AMD's intrinsic value per share at $180. Remember, the current market price is $127. So when I look at it in this way, it shows me the stock is undervalued as well. So whether I look at the discounted cash flow or the forward PE, AMD stock looks undervalued. This is magnified by the fact that if you look at the expectations for free cash flow growth over the next several years and the drivers of that growth over the next 5 years, it signals that investors are getting a good value with AMD stock. So to answer the question I posed in the beginning of the video, yes, I do think AMD stock is a buy before 2025. Did you know that over 90% of the people that watch my channel are not subscribed? It'll really help support my channel if you hit that subscribe button. And oh, by the way, one of the benefits of being subscribed is that I take requests from subscribers more often than I do from non-subscribers. So if you prefer that benefit, please subscribe to the channel.